Well, if you've been paying attention, we know that Mark Carney has earmarked and set up $9 billion extra dollars to be spent on national defense. And we've seen the press conferences, we've seen him get up in front of the pulpit at multiple locations over the past few weeks saying we are going to be focused on the Canadian Armed Forces. And during those conversations with President Trump and, upping our NATO targets, this, that, the other, people in Canada was like, okay, I don't know where we're going to get the money from, but this is a good thing. We're happy about it. Well, guess what? Mark Carney decided to Mark Carney the whole thing up because he is looking to do something different with that money that isn't actually spending it on our military. We'll be getting into that. Secondly, we'll be touching on the fact that the Conservatives are bringing a motion forward or bring a bill forward to make it illegal for judges to consider resident status before sentencing a lawbreaker, which seems like a common sense approach. It really shouldn't be a bill you should be bringing in the first place, especially in 2025. But alas, here we are. And last but not least, yes, wildfires have broken out in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Everyone's pointing the finger at who did what, who did this. We'll be touching on all of it. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Josh. I'm gratefully back on with you yet again. If you get any value from today's episode, please take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Helps us to grow, helps us to get to new audiences, and helps people see there's a different option than what the mainstream media has to offer. Now, please, let's get into our first story, shall we? We'll credit this to Rebel News. They did the legwork and did all the extra digging and finding out where this money is going. As we said, Mark Carney wants to spend an extra $9 billion on defense by April. Is that possible? An extra $8.7 billion earmarked for defense spending by the Department of National Defense or other government departments, and $370 million for the communication security establishment. Allies had been pushing Canada to meet NATO's goal for nearly 20 years, but actually doing so became imperative with Donald Trump in the White House. Mark Carney's words are right, but he's got to crack the whip real quick, said John Ball, a former Canadian defense industry executive for nearly 4 decades and now consultant. NATO defines defense expenditures as payments made by a national government specifically to meet the needs of its armed forces or those of allies and the alliance. Conservative MP and defense critic James Bizan warns it will be difficult for procurement officials inside government to reverse a long-standing culture of risk aversion, deferred decisions, and allowing billions of dollars in lapsed spending. To get $9 billion that Mark Carney has promised by April this year. And again, a lot of people who've been seeing this are excited. Even both sides of the aisle is like, you know what? It is what it is. Sure, it's been a long time coming, but at least it is coming. And that's quite a bit of money that we're looking to shell out on top of what we've already committed to already. However, as I said, documentation that Rebel News attained shows that $4.2 billion of that money is going towards green initiatives, is going towards greening the military as actually a part of their goals, as they've mapped out on the Government of Canada website. It says, greening defense. National defense is committed to strong climate action, and we are taking concrete steps to reduce our carbon footprint. Between 2017 and 2021, we invested over $280 million on a range of infrastructure projects and are designed to reduce emissions, secured access to clean electricity, and initiated energy performance contracts at Canadian Armed Forces bases and wings across the country. These initiatives are yielding meaningful results. As of 2021 and 2022, national defense has reduced its greenhouse gas emissions to 36% below 2005 levels. This puts us on track to meet the 40% target by 2025. We are also committed to achieving net zero emissions from our infrastructure portfolio and national safety and security fleets by 2050. This is what you get when you have a guy coming in who is a climate zealot. And now, as I said before and said many times, this is the slippery thing with Mark Carney. We said it before he even got into office. Trudeau was really easy to critique because he made it very easy to critique him. He said a lot of dumb things, was out in the open with a lot of ridiculous ideas, and people were able to see it for clear as day. The thing with Mark Carney, he's really good at obfuscation. He's really good at kind of, they'll say one thing and then do another. And this is another one of those situations. It's like, yeah, we're going to put a bunch of money into the military. But if you look, open the hood, half of that additional spending is going towards green technology. Half that spending is going towards green initiatives. Half that money is going towards things that aren't actually helping out our military, as Sheila Gunn Reid of Net Rebel News eloquently articulated in her video today. It's not going towards guns. It's not going towards gear. It's not going towards much of anything. It's going towards infrastructure for the military to make sure they bring down their greenhouse gas emissions. That is fascinating. And you're going to keep getting this from Mark Carney more and more as we go along. This is exactly how they are intending to work. We've seen the polls come out of the favorability of Mark Carney and Canadians kind of leaning towards him versus anybody else. It's because he does a good job of talking a good game, make it sound nice, but those who are paying attention, people who watch this show, those who know what's going on knows it's all air and it's not actually going anywhere. And even so, I remember when he announced this extra spending for the military, I was like, I'll be cautiously optimistic. We'll see where it goes. And then, of course, this stuff comes out. And you're just like, oh, okay. $4.2 billion going to just bring down greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah, that'll show China what's up, isn't it? That'll show China what's up. And that's the thing that Rebel News made clear today, and I think was a good point, is Donald Trump is not going to be happy about this. When we're in these meetings, when we are in these negotiations trying to figure out all the stuff with tariffs, this is not going to help out our situation. This is going to actually make Donald Trump very upset. He says, we want you to spend X on your military, and they're going to turn around and say, well, we're going to give it all to these green initiatives. And he's like, that's not what I want. You need to start purchasing weapons. Start making your military ready, battle ready. This is a waste of time, considering where things are at in the world right now. Donald Trump and his administration aren't going to be happy to hear this, and it's not going to help us anymore in these meetings. As we've said, the narrative's already shifting. The fact that, we're probably not going to be getting a deal this year. Actually, now the focus is moving on to the renegotiation of USMCA or CUSMA next year. That's the focus now. Is like, okay, we're not going to get anything this year. We're going to have to focus on the overall renegotiation of this for next year. And after you're seeing what Mark Carney is doing with our money right now and the pledges of spending he's doing and trying to show that he's doing things for the military, this is exactly where that money is all going. As I said, and I'll continue to say it again, keep your eyes peeled on this man. Keep your eyes peeled on this administration. And this is why he sent people away. It's so that he can do stuff like this without the watchful eye of Parliament on him. And that's the problem, and that's the thing. Well, two good things shows like this exist because we are going to keep the fire on him. But we move on to Michelle Rempel Garner making an announcement today about the Conservative Party looking to bring forward a bill to make it illegal for judges to give lighter sentences to non-residents due to their status. And as I know, I can already hear you saying it. I can read your mind. Shouldn't that be illegal already? Well, I looked into it. It's been legal since 2013, and Michelle Rempel Garner gets into all of it.
Today I'm announcing that Conservatives will introduce legislation to amend the criminal code and restore the value of Canadian citizenship by ending the practice of judges considering a non-citizen's immigration status in sentencing. Since 2013, a Supreme Court ruling has permitted judges to consider immigration status when sentencing. This has been seen in several recent high-profile cases. For example, a permanent resident received a conditional sentence after being convicted of trying to purchase sexual services from a 15-year-old, as a stronger penalty would have hindered him and his wife from obtaining Canadian citizenship. Another non-citizen in Canada on a visitor's permit was convicted twice of groping an 18-year-old woman's genitals at a bar, yet received a discharge to avoid a permanent criminal record and to allow for an appeal of their deportation. Anyone seeking residence or citizenship in Canada has responsibilities as well as rights. When it comes to sentencing non-citizens, Canada has essentially adopted a form of two-tier justice where judges can and have given lighter sentences to individuals who are non-citizens by virtue of this ruling. This offends all principles of fairness that should be foundational to our justice system. This is why, once the House of Commons resumes this fall, Conservatives will introduce legislation to amend the criminal code to rectify this issue. Our bill will add a section after Section 718.202 of the Criminal Code, which will expressly outline that any potential impact of a sentence on the immigration status of a convicted non-citizen offender or that of their family members should not be taken into consideration by a judge when issuing a sentence.
So there you have it right there. The Conservatives will be introducing a bill to make it illegal for judges to consider the resident status of a lawbreaker here in our country. She said it there very eloquently. that there has been scenarios, and we've covered on this show, where guys have done very heinous things. And as they appear before a judge, the judge is like, oh, we convict you on this. You're going to be deported. We can't have that. So we'll just give you a lesser sentence so that we don't hit the threshold that's going to send you abroad. That is where things are at here in this country. You come over, you break our laws, you disrespect our values, and we keep you here? Really? A man who's working for Bell Telecommunications decided to flash himself to a woman in her apartment multiple times over a 25-30 minute time. And he's just like, yeah, we're going to keep you on house. It's okay. It's okay. I think the one thing that really did shake me about this in general, because obviously is I'm learning as much as you guys are as we go along this journey together. I genuinely thought this was already illegal. I thought this was on the books. I thought you couldn't really consider anything about someone, whether it be their race, their identity, their sexual orientation, their residence. Like I didn't think those things would be considered when it came to sentencing, but only in Canada. Yes, because we are so progressive, we are so compassionate, we're so empathetic that we will consider these things. That is not justice. That is not right. And that, my friends, is our huge hole in our justice system, or lack thereof, here in this country. And I'm happy at least they're bringing something forward to highlight this. But this needs to be taken care of now. And we're going to be keeping an eye on how this bill progresses forward in Parliament when it resumes in the fall. Because we'll see, it's clear as day, the Liberals will vote against this 100%. And we'll see if the Conservatives can get everybody on their side to vote this through. Because again, Liberals are in a minority territory. So if Conservatives can convince the rest of the House to get this passed, then it will be passed. But 100% will be voted against by the Liberals, and we'll be keeping a close eye on all of it. Very fascinating stuff. Last but not least, Halifax, Nova Scotia witnessed wildfires break out in around the city, down around Bears Lake area in Halifax. And so this was huge news, because what we've been seeing online, what we've been seeing from people who are getting upset and are really caught up in their feelings right now, is a lot of finger pointing happening on all sides. This was the MAGA people. They went in and protested and lit the fire. They decided to burn down a forest because they hate our country so much. Been hearing a lot of that rhetoric. Hearing on the other side of rhetoric is, these are arsonists. It was all arsonists that did this. These are left-wing arsonists trying to make it look like it was all climate change, and they're trying to push forward their crazy climate agenda that clearly they have someone in who's prime minister who believes in it. And that was the other side shouting at them. But it turns out we found out what caused the fires. And it comes back down to lazy government policy yet again. So what's been happening? We've seen our new mayor, Andy Fillmore, and he pledged in his run to be mayor is that you're going to clean up all the homeless encampments. We're going to clean everything up. And they have. They've tried to at least clean up to a degree, and they've been pushing people out here and there. And then what's happened is there's an area in Bears Lake that's near a lot of different stores, whether it be the Nova Scotia Health Clinic. There is an outpatient clinic there. There's a Dollarama. There's a grocery store. There's a lot of different elements around in this area. And in this area is a forest that's on a lake. And it's been well known and well documented that the homeless have actually moved into that area and been living. Because our housing situation in this country is so rough, we have obviously an increased amount of homeless people and not really a whole lot being done to deal with it. We actually have developers in Halifax right now who are waiting to build homes. They have it all ready to go. They're just waiting on city council to sign off on it, and they won't sign off on it. They won't. They keep figuring things out to delay. And guess what? The homeless situation keeps getting worse because we're not getting housing built in Halifax and in Nova Scotia. And so what ended up happening is you have people who have been given no other choice. They're now living in tents in a forest. And typically, how are you going to heat your dinner? How are you going to make food? Well, you're going to use fire. And that is what has happened, is a fire broke out in a homeless encampment, which led then to the forest fire we have now seen take place in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And so everyone's saying, it was the MAGA people or it was the arsonists. No, it's a very simple answer. Lazy government policy, pushing people out, giving them no other choice. Now they're living in the forests. And unfortunately, as someone was cooking their dinner, a fire got out of control and is now burning the forest in Halifax. And it's still not contained as I speak currently at approximately 1 p.m. Atlantic time. It's very easy to get angry. It's very easy to get upset at someone you think you should be angry at. But in this case, it's just lazy government policy yet again. Is not dealing with the housing crisis because you have well over somewhere in the vicinity of over 1,000 units waiting to be built, waiting to be signed off by council right now. Developers are ready to go, and council is not signing off on it. They're dragging their feet. And as that continues, Mr. Tim Houston is bringing in more and more people into the province because Nova Scotia's broke. So we have more people fighting for fewer homes. Council's not signing off on homes to be built. And now Houston, because of these issues, because he has no money, decides to say, you can't go in the forest, you can't hike, bum, 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 bum. Well, guess what? The issue that you keep causing and exasperating, this huge circle of problems, is now what is leading to what we're seeing. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy right now. We have no money, so we're going to immigrate more people, but we're not getting housing built for these people to come in. We got to increase the tax base, but now we're having more people homeless than ever. We can't have people seeing that there's homeless people, so we're going to have to push them out into the woods. We're going to tell everyone, all the hikers, that they can't be in the woods, and we're going to make them the enemy. And then it was just a simple mistake. Someone trying to make their dinner has led to forest fires. And because this thing's been so hyper-politicized, everyone's pointing the fingers at things that don't exist. And don't get it twisted for 1 second. This all comes down to lazy politicians, lazy council members, and people not willing to get their hands dirty to get something done. So we're going to keep you updated on what's happening with those forest fires in Nova Scotia. It stinks. I'm not happy to see it, but I'm going to do my best to keep taking the nuanced approach to see and tell you exactly what is going on from what we are seeing and documenting on the ground. But anyways, enjoy your day. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.